Welcome to the Forager podcast, where I talk with cottage food entrepreneurs about their strategies for running a food business from home. I'm David Crable, and today I'm talking with Soralla Gonzalez, who is a member of my new Cottage Food Pro membership. As you'll hear today, Soraya made some business mistakes early on that could have been avoided if she had someone to mentor her. One of the benefits of Cottage Food Pro is our monthly group calls, and Soraya has attended every single call thus far. Over the past few months, I have seen her make many adjustments to her business that are setting her up for long-term success. As I said, Cottage Food Pro is new and it's still quite small, so it's a great opportunity to get personalized feedback directly from me and other members like Soraya. In addition to our monthly calls, Cottage Food Pro also contains tutorials that are designed to boost your business without breaking the bank. To learn more about my new membership, go to cottagefoodpro.com. All right, so as you know, I have Soraya on the show today. She lives in Tampa Bay, Florida, and sells sourdough and other healthy baked goods with her cottage food business, Delicious Healthy Bakes. Soraya started selling baked goods at the beginning of 2023 and initially thought she'd focus on keto products, but struggled to find enough demand for them in her area. But one day she brought some sourdough bread to a market and it sold out immediately. She's now switched over to selling mostly sourdough baked goods, but still has had many ups and downs in trying to find the right customers for her healthy baked items. In this episode, Soraya shares how she has overcome struggles and has steadily grown her bakery by being resilient, implementing various marketing strategies, failing fast, and staying focused on her true passion. And with that, let's jump right into this episode. Welcome to the show, Soraya. Nice to have you here.
Hey David, how are you?
Good. Yeah, so normally I start an episode with saying, take me back to how you got started, but I actually know you quite well, Soraya. You're in my Cottage Food Pro membership, and you have been my most active student, and it's good to finally have you on.
I am so excited to be here because I remember the first time that I even heard about you, I reached out to you and I said, maybe in 2 years I'll be on your podcast. It was like something I wanted to do, and here I am.
Yeah, and it's been about that, right? About 2 years.
Maybe a little more.
Well, I was looking back, and it looked like you started about in early 2023, and now here we are in mid 2025. So yeah, it's cool that it's finally come and it become a reality. And honestly, I should have had you on the, the podcast sooner. I don't know why I didn't schedule you in before, but it's really cool to see just how much your business has grown. But let's take it back to the beginning. You're thinking about those early days when it was just a dream. What did you want the business to be, or what was it like in the early days?
I didn't really have a business in mind per se, but I know that I was looking for a bakery that made sugar-free, gluten-free cakes because it was my daughter's, she was turning 5. So my daughter has vitiligo, which are like little white spots that pop up on your body. And I'm into functional medicine, and I was looking for like a root cause or how to fix that. And it just happened to be that the I listened to a lot of podcasts. The next podcast that I ran into was by Dr. Mark Hyman, and he talked about vitiligo was like the topic of that episode. And I listened to it, and he says the root cause of it is gluten, like breads and things like that. So the minute that we cut out like bread and things with gluten for her, she no longer had new spots emerging. Now what's there is there, but I haven't seen anything new. And we haven't given her sugar since pretty much she was born. Like we let her taste her first birthday cake, like taste it, but we never gave her sugar because we knew from the beginning that sugar is just not good for you. I didn't know anything about gluten. I thought it was just people who can't tolerate gluten. And for daycare, like you're not allowed to make your own stuff. It has to be prepared in a commercial kitchen. And I literally could not find a healthy bakery that sugar free and gluten free. Everything was either organic, like gourmet type of expensive cupcakes and things like that, but nothing specific to what I was looking for. And that's how it kind of all started for me.
I'm thinking about Christy. She was on episode 126, and she's also in Florida and sells healthy baked goods. And she mentioned that she had a real problem trying to sell healthy baked goods. And you mentioned you didn't have any healthy baked goods in your area. And it just seems like there's not a whole lot of demand for healthy baked goods in certain parts of Florida. And I know that that's been a challenge for you. So, what has it been like to try to promote something that just might not be what people are looking for?
It is very difficult because there's just such a small percentage of the people that get it, to the point to where I kinda had to add, like, sourdough baked goods and sourdough breads and things like that, because that ended up doing so much better than my baked desserts. But then again, like, you don't eat a dessert, like, every single day, and they're expensive too, so it's just a hard sell all the way around if that's all you wanna do. Like, I don't see myself living off of an income of just sugar-free, gluten-free dessert in this area.
So, what did your vision start at? Like, what did you start selling in the beginning?
I started selling, like, cakes and cupcakes and cookies, and for a little while, I was getting a lot of orders for people just wanting a smash cake for the baby's first birthday, and then they would have, like, a regular cake for the rest of the party, but for the baby specifically, like, there's a few people that really don't wanna give their babies, like, sugar, and that's what I was doing a lot of, and also adults with, like, diabetes, but that too just dwindles. I haven't really had many orders of that, or even the same people that, like, for their next year's birthday, that I don't hear from them.
Yeah, I mean, you said you're selling cakes, cupcakes, but these were like really specific cakes, right? They had no sugar, no gluten, right? Like you weren't selling a regular regular baked goods, right?
No, I don't even know how to bake a regular cake unless it's from maybe the box. I wouldn't know how to do a cake.
Yeah, I saw that way back when you started as delicious keto bakes. Now you've transitioned to delicious healthy bakes. So, was that the goal was just to focus only on keto products?
Yeah.
But, your daughter, it's not just keto, right? Like, so is this your own personal like diet? Like, were you following the keto diet? Were you sugar free? Were you gluten free yourself?
As much as possible. I do eat carbs, but not like simple carbs. I will never eat treats and things like that, like sweet stuff. I won't touch it. It just comes naturally, I guess, gluten free because of the almond flour that I use. But I got on a kick that, like, I found out how harmful sugar is and that it's a toxin. It's an acid to the body and it's not good for us to eat, especially the amount of sugar that is out there. Like, it's okay once in a blue, but the thing is that there's enough sugar in the natural foods that we eat. The right amount that's supposed to be there is that added sugar that, is so harmful.
So you weren't doing sourdough when you started the business, right? That's something that you discovered along the way.
Yeah, I'm always on Instagram looking at, like, cooking videos and things like that, and I saw this girl make a really simple bread, and from that one, how Instagram will start suggesting things leads into, like, people talking about sourdough bread, and I decided I wanted to try to make one, and, it's a lot of trial and error, but once I discovered, like, the health benefits of it and that the gluten is very little on it, like, it's very low due to the fermentation process that eats up most of the gluten, I decided to give that a try, and it did really well. Like, when I took it to a market, when I felt comfortable to sell it, I took, like, 3 to a market, and they sold before anything else. So that's what got me into doing the sourdough breads and add that to the menu, and then that's when it went from keto, because that's not keto, to just delicious healthy bakes to be a little bit more broad, but I want people to understand that what I do is still different than, public bakery.
Yeah, and I feel like now the sourdough's taken over, right? Like how much of your business is sourdough related products?
More than 80%.
Yeah. It's just so interesting. And the other thing about this is that you started as delicious keto bakes, now you're delicious healthy bakes, but then there's also ugly bunt cakes, which was I think still is your LLC.
Yeah, it started like that. So that the Delicious Healthy Bakes is the 3rd time I've changed the name. So with Ugly Bunk Cakes is because when I first started making cakes, The cupcakes were not very pretty. They were ugly butt cakes. And I thought that that would be like the funniest thing to tell people. Oh, ugly butt cakes came from ugly butt cakes because they were not cute at all. They were so ugly. But then I had to change the name because people don't know what you do with that, and I don't make bunk cakes. So I'm like, man, I wish I would have thought about it. I wish I could do it all over, and I would have just said delicious healthy bakes, But what can I do?
Well, that's kind of the part of business is you just learn. I mean, was it really that hard to transition names?
No, I just did from one day to the next. Here's my new name, y'all.
Well, and you do still have that as your LLC, right? Like you still have an LLC called Ugly Bunt Cakes.
Yeah, that's still the LLC. And then I just recently added doing business as Delicious Healthy Bakes.
Yeah, it's just business. It just takes you different places as you've discovered, right? You started with one vision and now it looks completely different than what you started as with mostly selling sourdough bread now.
Right.
What got you interested in pursuing this as a business in the first place? Because it's one thing to just, want to make healthy food for your daughter, but then you got to take it to another level to actually want to turn it into a business.
I don't know why anybody would want to do this because it is 10 times harder than me being a nurse and just doing my nursing job. I feel like this is more of an assignment that I was given, a task that I was told this is what you're here to do now and you need to do it because I tell myself why do I want to do this? I work so much harder physically, and it's not just that. You got to do taxes. There's just so much to keep track of when you're opening a business, and I imagine it's the same for any business. It's not just baking, but for any business, I'm like, oh my god, I don't know why I would want to do this, and then I just keep hearing a little voice in the back of my head that just says, "This is your assignment. This is what you're supposed to do."
That's funny because a lot of people that get into this industry come from nursing. Nursing is a very service oriented business. Running a food business is a very service oriented business as well. But oftentimes I hear the opposite where people say nursing wears them out. They're just wiped. And then baking is like a reprieve. It's like something they do for fun. It gets their mind off things. Usually people don't talk about it being harder than nursing. So that's a very interesting perspective.
But I work per diem. So that's the kicker where I get control of my schedule the most is I work per diem. I don't work full time. Like they don't own my time basically Monday through Friday or Sunday to Saturday. Basically. That's how. Now if I did that, then I would totally be burnt out and be like the other nurses that you're talking about. I do per diem and I thank you God that I'm able to do that and that there's enough work to sustain for me to be able to do that. Because if I worked in a hospital or had to work full time for someone, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do baking and I would totally be burnt out from nursing big time.
Yeah, and you are not a traditional nurse, right? You're a traveling nurse.
Yeah. People would understand it as travel nursing because I'm in my car driving around a lot and going to like the next county over, but it's just home health where I go to people's homes and see them there.
I saw that shortly before you started this business, you had a TV spot about your travel nursing. It was a pretty significant TV spot, too.
I know. And I reached out to her trying to get my business on on TV.
Well, how did you get on TV in the first place? Because there are a lot of travel nurses out there. Why did you get featured? Was it something you did?
I was the only one willing to do it. You know how I am. I'm like real social and I like to try different things. So I was the only one. They asked and I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it."
I did notice when I was looking into your social media, this is not the first time that you've pursued a business. You've pursued a business many times. This is like, well, I don't even know how many businesses you've tried to start, but I saw you tried to do Color Street Nails at one point. You were a realtor about the time when you started this business. So something about your personality wants to start a business and have something be your own. Do you know where that comes from?
I don't like being told what to do. Like, I don't like having a boss. And so I've been trying all these different things. Real estate, I joined at like the worst time that anybody could try to become a realtor. It was hard even for experienced realtors when I got my license. It was hard for them, let alone someone who knows nothing about real estate. But I still have my license. I'm just not using it for anything. And the Color Street thing, COVID messed that up. That was doing great. That's what gave me the experience for markets, but then COVID hit and all the markets like stopped suddenly and nursing picked up a lot. So I had to focus on where I was needed and I just let Color Street go as well.
All right. Well, so you started selling at the beginning of 2023, and then when do you feel like you discovered sourdough?
It's probably been about 2 years since I've been doing sourdough, or a year and a half.
Okay. But you feel like maybe at the end of 2023? Like how long were
Yeah,
you running your business before you introduced sourdough into the mix?
about a year and a half. So it's been like 3 years now, and it's right at the year and a half.
Okay. So what was that first year like before you had kind of found that signature product of yours? And you were trying to start this business, get off the ground. What was that first year like for you?
So I did the very first market that I did was at a at event called Fit Fest, where I did only keto stuff at that event. All I did was cupcakes, and then I ran out of cupcakes, and I it was 2 day event, and I had to bake that night whoopie pies, and I sold those like crazy. I was like, good, I'm on to something. I'm on to something. And sales just went down from there. And with sourdough, it just helped me out so much. But that first year and a half, it was hard. It's not easy. It really isn't with the keto stuff. It, like I said, it's a very specific group of people. And at the Fit Fest was a perfect, that's where my people are because they had food there. They were selling hot dogs and burgers and stuff like that. And people were coming to my booth saying that despite that my thing was dessert, I had the healthiest thing to eat there. And that was supposed to be a Fit Fest. And people were coming to my booth buying a cupcake because it was better than eating burgers and fries.
It's interesting though, you said that your business went down from there. Like once you typically usually when you find success, then the success starts to build. So why do you feel like you weren't able to build off that success? Were just not other events like that in your area that you could travel to?
Yeah, there's not other events like that in the area, but at the same time, I was not savvy. And I don't even think I have run into you to your podcast at the time. Like I didn't even know David Craybill and all that stuff because I was just listening to all kinds of podcasts about baking that I could find. The twins, the cookie twins. That's how they mentioned your name on their podcast. That's how I discovered you. But I was not savvy enough to collect people's emails, make them follow me on Instagram. I didn't do any, I just went there and sold stuff. I didn't know anything about marketing and like trying to get people's emails so that I can have, I would have had thousands of people's emails from that event, that I could have had for, I didn't know about ConvertKit. That was you that helped me get that going. I didn't know anything.
I do recall you mentioning that you tried selling at your gym at some point. Maybe you still do that. Is that something that you tried back then? Because you found your people at the Fit Fest. It seems like those same people would be at the gym you attended.
So I do advertise at my local gym where I go, and I was advertising at Shape. It's like a women's only gym, but still people see it as dessert. So it's so hard. It's so because even people who are into fitness and things like that, they still don't get what I do. And if they're in competition mode, like they won't touch anything that looks like a dessert because it's a dessert. So even still with them, it's so hard to get them because they understand protein and they understand carbs. When it comes to sugar-free, gluten-free, they can't wait till the second they step off that stage to go eat something that's full of sugar and gluten and all that stuff. Because they know how to cut down, but they don't understand. People just don't understand what it is that I do.
But I know you also in the beginning had like protein bars. That's still, they just wouldn't touch those either.
Now I have protein bars. Those are new that I just recently started doing them. And yeah, they love those. So I got to make samples and take them to the gym for people to like try them because those two are sugar free, gluten free, they're dairy free, as healthy as I can make them. Because my husband, he requested that I make him some protein bars. He sent me the recipe, and I thought, oh, I think I can make this a little bit better by finding something sugar free. So when I take those to sample to like individual people, they like them, and I sell them a lot at market.
So I know you found a lot of success at the Fit Fest, but then you said your business dwindled. So did you go to another market at some point after that and just not sell a lot or have a bad experience?
I sold so that was, like, in July of whatever year I did that in, 2023, I think it was. That was in July, and the markets really don't start here until, like, September, October. So I had to wait a little bit to start doing it at markets, and so I was at markets, and it was doing well, and even in 2023, I feel like I was really new to because it's not just baking, you have to know business, and I'm still learning that. I wasn't collecting people's emails. It wasn't until I joined your pro membership thing that, like, I started collecting people's emails, and how recent was that? I think it was, like, this year that I started collecting emails and asking people to sign up for my email list.
Yeah, and I know we tweaked that a little bit because initially you were just having a job form and then trying to add people to the list, and now you have it set up right where people can just use a QR code and go straight to your landing page on Kit and then get added to your email list. And how do you get people to join your email list?
As they are buying something from me, I say to them, "Hey, are you local?" And they say yes. Well, do you want to sign up for my email list so you know where I'm going to be next? I promise I'm not going to spam you because I don't have time for that. But if you sign up for my emails, you'll know where I'm going to be next. And 90% of the time, people say yes.
So, and how many markets are you planning on doing, or did you do earlier in the year?
Earlier in the year, I was signing up for it seemed like whatever I could find. It was like every other Saturday and every other Sunday. But then then those ended and the summer ones picked up. So I've been doing one in St. Pete that's every single Sunday, and they're year round. She just started that this year where she's year round. So I signed up for that one just to have an income for the business because I like to pay for stuff with the money that the bakery makes. I don't like having to work extra so that I can buy something for it. You know what I mean?
And how much is your email list growing, or has it grown since you started collecting emails at markets?
Quite a bit. It's not like 1,000 people or anything like that, but it's a couple hundred.
And how often do you email the people on your email list?
I email them like on Fridays when I'm gonna do a market once a week if I'm doing a market.
And do you know, like, if that's increased your returning customer count? Like, I don't know if you ever tracked that, but like, once you started sending out the emails, is that bringing people back or letting people find you who want to find your stuff?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, yes. Especially for like the area where I live. A lot of the people that order for like porch pickups and stuff like that, those are people who have bought from me before. If they don't sign up for my email list, they're probably on my Instagram and I'll post on Instagram, hey guys, I just sent out an email to everybody and they'll go from there. But I'll send little emails and yeah, sometimes I'll ask them, "Hey, did you see my email?" And they'll say, "Yeah, it was from the email or it was from Instagram that they saw me post that I was baking."
Yeah, and sometimes people don't necessarily take action on the email, right? They don't like see the email and they're like, oh, I'm going to go out to the market to find her today. But you still stay top of mind, right? By having that presence in their inbox. So, that they don't forget about you because there are just so many options and so many things to think about in our busy lives. And it's just helpful to kind of keep yourself top of mind for the people who care about your products.
Yeah. I'm looking at Kit right now and it says that the average open rate is 40%. So not even everybody from there is opening the email. And then 1.91% click on the link to order something. So that's why I try to get as many emails as possible and like offer that to everybody who's interested or buying something from me.
I know that might sound low, but those are actually pretty decent numbers. I mean, especially the 40% open rate is a good open rate for sure. I mean, I've heard maybe as high as like 60% would be like a really exceptional open rate, but generally speaking, you're wanting to have like over 20% open rate. So you're well above that. You have a pretty engaged list. To have a 40% open rate, that means you're doing a pretty good job with your emails and people want to hear from you. And then the like 1.9 or like the 2% of people that actually click to order something, that's on the lower end, but you would generally see like maybe a 2 to 5% click through rate on an email, but that would be more for like emails where you're really trying to get the person to take an action. Whereas it sounds like the purpose of your emails is a lot of times just to tell people where you are and where you're going to be. So it's not always, oh, I have a sale. Oh, I'm trying to promote something. Oh, I want you to click through and buy right now, which is where we'd be a little bit more cognizant of like a click through rate. And I don't think your emails typically fall into that category. But anyway, even 2% is pretty good for a more of a passive email like that.
Yeah.
Well, so I know you found value in email, and that's something that you didn't do. And maybe if you had been capturing your customers' email addresses back when you did FitFest, maybe your business would have taken a different trajectory. What are some other things that you feel like you've learned about business that have helped you grow?
You have to be consistent, and I'm trying my best to stay in because it seems like there's more down than there is like highlights. And if you focus on I'm not selling anything, nothing's happening, it'll stay that way, I think. And I hear that from other people in business that they say consistency. You have to be consistent. You have to just keep going and keep going at it. And the only people who fail are the ones who quit.
It's interesting to hear you say that there's been more downs and ups because I feel like I've seen a lot of ups, but then I only see the highlights, right? Like, what are some of the challenges you feel like you've faced? Especially, I know the beginning, first year was tough because you hadn't found sourdough, but like, let's say in the last year or just even just this year, what do you think has been really challenging about your business?
Well, I opened that little Airstream. Well, I already closed it because it was just costing me money. So that right there is a down. I did post, I only posted one post that, hey, today's the last day that I'm going to be open, but I closed it, I think like 2 months after I opened it, or a month and a half, something like that. When you go to markets, it's hit or miss. Either you sell out or you're coming home with a lot of stuff. The last Sunday, I came home with a lot of things. I probably sold like 12 loaves out of 40 that I took. So I'm not gonna post that. I don't even feel good about it when stuff like that happens.
And had you been at that market before and sold well?
Yeah. So even I started that market when it first started, maybe like a month ago, and I was doing really well for like 2, 3 weeks in a row. And I'm like, oh, good, fine. I can do this. And then last week and even yesterday, the foot traffic was really slow. And I don't like to say that and admit to it, like, because to me, I feel like I'm speaking it into existence. But I just talked to the lady next to me. I'm like, I don't want to say this out loud, but this is what I'm thinking. Do you feel like it's a little bit slower? And she goes, oh, definitely. I'm not even at half of what I normally make here. And then there's a hummus guy that he does super well there. And he said that yesterday's market was the worst that he's had. And he's been going there forever.
Yeah. So it's not really your products, right? It was a market issue.
It makes you feel like it is though, because there's 2 other sourdough girls there, and one of them, she sells out every single time. I'm like, "What am I doing wrong? Like, is it me? Is it the place where I'm sitting?" Because there's, like, 2 entrances to the market, and I'm in the middle. So the first girl is when you come in through the left, you're gonna run into hers before you come to mine, and if you come in from the right, you're gonna run into the other girl's sourdough before you see mine. So unless there's been a few people that go specifically for me because of my keto stuff, and if while they're there, they'll just buy sourdough. But I'm like, is it my product? Is it the place where I'm sitting? I asked to be moved, but she said, no, it's already set for the season. Like I already got people in the places where, because I'm kind of new. I'm new to that market, and there's been people that have been going there for a long time, but I don't know, it makes you feel like it's your product sometimes when it's like that.
Well, definitely market placement can make a huge difference in sales. And it sounds like in that specific situation, you've got like, that's like the worst possible scenario, right? Especially when you have competition and most people are going to see another option before they see yours. But then again, those other two bakers at the market, I'm sure have been selling for a lot longer than you have. And that's part of it too, is like maybe they were selling in the middle for their first year or their first 2 years, and they had to deal with someone else's competition. But then they just stuck with it long enough where they became the market leader. That's part of it too, right? It does take that consistency and that persistence sometimes to get over the hurdle.
Yeah, the girl that she always like last week was my worst market there at that market. I didn't do well at all. And she comes over and she said, "Hey, how'd you do?" And I said, "I hardly sold anything. How'd you do?" She goes, "I have one loaf left." And she brings other things. She doesn't just do just bread. She does like cookies and cinnamon rolls, sweets and stuff like that. And she sold everything. And she's like, "I only have one loaf left." And I'm like, "What is wrong with me? What am I doing wrong?"
It's interesting how you were saying you didn't want to talk about it because you'd be speaking it into existence, and I know I've noticed that where the mindset thing is really big for you, how you think. Can you share a little bit about that and like how you think about your business and how it affects it?
I know that when I go to if I let other things bother me, it's hard as a girl. We're very emotional to not let things bother us and not think about it. And I try my best to steer away from like if something negative happened, and it could be small, but still negative is negative. I notice that it must emit out to the universe because my sales will be a little bit lower when I'm coming in with not the best attitude. And on really good days when I'm feeling really well and not thinking about anything outside, I do well. So, yeah, I think it's what you attract, and it's almost like you have this aura around your body that's attracting whatever it is that you are. Not what I want, it's what I am. So if I'm being negative, it shows through. I'll have people come by and say goofy things to me that I don't want to hear. And I'm like, "Oh my God, here we go." And then it's almost like I reinforced it and I'm like, stop doing that. Don't do that. Be positive."
I think it's one thing to like say, "Oh, I should be positive," or I shouldn't let negative thoughts in, but it's harder to implement, right? Like it's harder to actually be that. Like, what do you do that helps you stay positive, especially when things aren't going well? Like as you mentioned, sometimes they don't.
I talk a lot to myself, and whenever I'm talking to other people, they always tell me, "Oh, you're so positive." And I try to remember that people tell me that, "Oh, man, yeah, you're right. I need to be more positive, or you're such a good motivator," and things like that. And I need to do that for myself. Because let's say a friend of mine was feeling or thinking the things that I was feeling and thinking, I would never reinforce her and say, "Oh yeah, you're right. Like you suck." Or you would never say that to your friend. So why be hard on yourself? So I try to remember that I am my own best friend and I need to see myself and talk to myself like a friend. So you wouldn't be mean to your friends. And I am grateful every day that I wake up. It is such a privilege. Like people don't understand the privilege it is to be a human being. Because I could have been a fly. I tell people their feelings that, you could have been a fly and God chose you to be, and I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, I'm just very spiritual. So when I say God, it means the entity that you believe in. And I tell them, you're so lucky that you were chosen to be a human being. I am so lucky to wake up every day. And that means if I got to wake up today, then that means that I still have purpose and need. And whatever it is that I'm supposed to go do, that's what I need to go do. I'm here for a purpose. You're not just here for nothing.
I noticed this quote and I thought it was really notable. You said, "You're the most important person in your life. And if you don't take care of your own mental health, then how are you going to take care of anybody else?"
Where'd you see that? It sounds familiar.
You said it in that traveling nursing video.
Oh, in that video, wow. That's around the time I think that was, like, 2021, and that's around the time when I started discovering, like, what true health is. and how things like nutrition and things started really changing for me around that time. And when I changed my nutrition, it affected my mind. I see things a whole I used to be real negative, and I see the positive in everything now.
Yeah, I know you've had challenges selling healthy items in your area, but is that the reason why you were unwilling to try selling something that would be more popular? It was just like a moral conscience thing?
Yeah. If I won't give it to my family, then I'm not gonna sell it to somebody else. I just won't do it then.
Well, I know that you've struggled at times, you haven't done well at this market, and then I know you had that Airstream, like that trailer that they tried. But one thing I've noticed is that you are willing to try anything. Like you try a lot of things and you get a lot of things done within a day. Like I remember on one of our monthly meetings, because within the Cottage Food Pro membership, we do these monthly meetings. And I think one day you were like, "Oh, I really wish I could ship my products, but I can't because I live in Florida and I wish I could start an Etsy store." And I said, "Well, actually, Florida is one of the only places where you can sell out of state. It actually allows that." And you're like, "Oh, wow, I got to start an Etsy store." And we do these like monthly goals, right? And I had down for starting an Etsy shop with your monthly goals, and then the next day you were like, "I just made my first sale on Etsy," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Wait, how did you already start your Etsy store
As
within a
soon as
day?"
you told me I could, we were still in the meeting and I was on my phone, had the phone down on for the video, and then I was on my laptop. I pulled out the laptop and just started doing that while we were still talking. I like to just if I'm going to do it, let's go. Get it done right away cuz why procrastinate? What am I going to wait a month for?
Yeah, but most people aren't like that because most people would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna start an Etsy store. Okay, let's make sure all my pictures are up to snap. Let's see what am I gonna put on my menu. Let's do research on how to start an Etsy store. Or, like take a course on it or something. I don't know." And you just did it. And you've done that many times, with that trailer. It was like we were on our call and there was no mention of the trailer. And like the next week, you're like, "Hey, look what I just did." So
Yeah.
it's just like your personality. And I have learned that you don't need our monthly meetings for accountability. If you set your mind to something, you are just going to go ahead and do it. And do you feel like you're just an A type person? Like it's just your personality, or is it something that you cultivated in yourself to be super proactive?
I don't know. I don't know what A-type personality really is, but you say I'm successful and I don't see it that way. And that's probably why I'm not as successful as I should be. It's because my own thinking is that I don't feel like I am. But I'm trying all kinds of things. What is going to be the one thing to get me? Because I'm trying to retire myself from nursing. I don't want to do it anymore. And I see so many other girls that they just bake from home or they just have their home bakery and that's how they make a living. So I'm trying all kinds of things to see what is the thing that's finally going to get me to that point. And I follow a lot of other entrepreneurs that they say if you're going to make mistakes, like you got to fail fast. If something's going to fail, hurry up and just do it to see if it works or not.
I said that you're successful, and I don't mean that in that like you have the very most successful business I've ever seen, or, you're at a point where you're consistently making a lot of money I mean, you do make quite a bit of money at some of these markets, but what I mean is that I feel like you're just destined for success because I see how you are as an entrepreneur. I see the way you think. I see the way you approach things, and I see you growing. I don't know. Maybe I just have that bigger time horizon, having seen so many cottage food businesses over the years. I sort of know it takes time to start this kind of business. And as you said yourself, it was just this year that you started implementing some of these business techniques that are, fundamental in building up your business. But I know there'll be ups and downs, but I do feel like you're on this upward trajectory path towards being very successful. You got all the parts there. You have a product that people really love. You have that personality. You're positive, you're social, you're outgoing. So you're really able to engage people. And at this point, you're just building it, you're growing it, you're trying new things. Some will work, some won't. But I would be pretty surprised if in a year or 2 years, you don't have a pretty consistent revenue coming off of this business.
That's what I'm hoping for. So that's why I try so many different things to see what's going to be that thing that if it's going to work, then do it. Why hesitate? If it's going to not work, again, hurry up and see if it's not going to work. Either way, like it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, with that Airstream, with the trailer, walk me through that decision because I had known, last we touched base was at the beginning of the summer and I knew you had just started that. I didn't know you had closed that down already, but how did that whole opportunity come about?
When I take my daughter to school, I pass by it's a community where I live called Winthrop. And so I drive by these little Airstreams and I noticed that there's like little businesses. And I'm like, hey, what is that? And I saw one that was just empty. Like every time I would drive by, it's empty. And so I was picking my daughter up from school and I talked to one of the guys who was there. And I said, hey, if you don't mind me asking about the Airstream. So he gave me the brief. And I had already kind of looked up the information beforehand and found out the person who I needed to talk to. And he confirmed, yeah, that's the person that you would need to talk to. So I called her and it just went from there. And the rent was like really, really cheap to get started. And it basically like it was cheap and she just let you if it works, it works. That you can keep it for however long you want, or you can just cancel the lease whenever you want to. So it was really easy to just jump in and jump out. But I didn't think because I'm the type of person that just jumps into things. Okay, oh, you're gonna have a store. Who's gonna bake? Who's gonna, work? Because I still have bills to pay that the bakery is not sustaining right now. How are you gonna work all this out? So luckily my son is was available to be there physically just selling the stuff. So I would bring everything over there and just sell the stuff, but I was paying him and I was lucky if one person a day came by. So it's costing me a lot more than just the rent and ingredients. So I told my son, hey, we're going to have to close the store because even on Saturdays when I'd be open, nobody would come.
And I know that this trailer was in a series of others, like there were 5 there maybe. Were they getting business?
Not necessarily, no. At least I didn't see it for them either. But one lady next to me, she's an older lady, and I honestly think that she just does it for just a hobby. She likes it. The rent is really cheap. So she goes there when sometimes and sometimes she's closed. There's another guy who's a guitar guy. So he's been in business for like 20 years before he opened the Airstream, like maybe going on a year ago. He repairs guitars. So he doesn't necessarily need a lot of foot traffic because he's not so much selling something right then and there. He just wanted to get his business out of his house. So he gets a lot of customers from before.
So was this just kind of an area that didn't have a lot of foot traffic? It was just like a not a good location?
I think that the spot where it's at, because there's other businesses there like Moe's and Starbucks, but they're hidden. The Airstreams are like behind all that stuff. Like people had a hard time finding me. And it's like almost right where the house, like in the community where the houses are, where people live. So it's not out. You can't see it from the street. You have to go into the community, like if you're going to a person's house and the people who live in the community, they knew I was there, but if they're working, I would take it if they wanted something, they'd just send me a text, but it'd be so rare. They'd have to be on their phone at work to know that I'm open to be reminded of me. Very little foot traffic, like people just walking, because the only people that would be walking through there are people who are living in the community and they're just out exercising.
Anyway, it just sounds like the location was an issue there, but it didn't work. But it was something to try, right? And you tried it. But even more notably than the fact that you tried it, you also stopped, which is something that people have a hard time with. Like if they start something, then it's like, then they don't cut the cord when it's like obvious that you need to end and try something else. So that's also a good thing is where you, like you said, failing fast, you will try something, but then you also are good about moving on if you need to.
And I just didn't attach emotion to it because I kind of knew that from the beginning that if it doesn't work, then it just doesn't work. It's just another thing that I'm going to try. So I knew to just not have any attachment to that. So the day that I closed, I treated it like any other Saturday where I was just picking up because I was using the same equipment for the store as I was for my market. So I just treated it like any other ordinary Saturday where I'm just picking up my tables, emptying the Airstream to go do the market the next day. So I just kept emotion out of it for that.
Yeah, something else that you're really good about doing is just getting things done and not getting them done perfectly. You get them completed and finished and get them to like a 70% or an 80% level to try it. So that's the thing with this trailer that I think is really notable is that even though it was a down for you, like it didn't work, it still wasn't a huge investment because a lot of people who would have opened up their first storefront kind of thing into this trailer would have made a big deal of it. They would have, maybe done a full remodel or I know there was AC issues or I don't know, but they would have put a lot of effort into setting it up, making it look perfect, getting signage, and you definitely didn't do that. You moved in, you put your products in, but it was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
No, no, it wasn't.
But you were able to learn that it wasn't a good fit anyway, right? So if you had put all that effort into it, it probably would have been a waste of time.
And money, yeah. I am a strong believer in done is better than perfect, but I recently joined Chef Sean Bird's her more dough course for like corporate orders. And her thing is more like, no, everything needs to be perfect. I'm like, oh my God. I stay quiet in the class and I don't say anything because I've always believed that done is better than perfect. And she's like, your pictures have to be perfect. And I'm like, oh my God, now I have to get a photographer to take, I'm gonna have to cook all this extra stuff and get a photographer. And how am I gonna coordinate that? So it's like a catch 22 right now.
I think there's different schools of thought there. And I don't think that there's just one size fits all answer. I'm the kind of perfectionist type who likes everything to be perfect, but usually I do see that that's more of a downside for me than anything, and the people that I see who are the most successful entrepreneurs are people that just get stuff out there and get stuff done. And a chef Amanda is actually pretty good about like getting stuff out there, and it's not always perfect in the beginning. With her course on corporate orders, I think that might be a little bit different, right? Where she's like, okay, if you're going to be selling to businesses, if you're going to be selling to corporations, you need to have your act together, because they don't have the time to deal with somebody who doesn't have their act together. So that might be why. But I'd say, generally speaking, it's better to get things done and get things out there than to try to make them all perfect.
And even with that course that I'm taking with her, I'm still doing the things that she's suggesting as is until I can get a photographer and I cook, more stuff specifically just for a photo prop. So I'm still just throwing it out there right now.
So you've invested in that course. Another investment I know you have made in your business this year was your oven. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I was listening to one of your podcasts and one of the girls mentioned, "Oh, I got a Pico Plus," and I immediately like hit pause. I looked that up and it's not from here. It's like in Europe somewhere. And within like a week or two, I said, "I'm just going to get it because it's going to make my life so much easier." And it really has. Like I said, I'm the type of person that just jumps into stuff without really doing a whole lot of research. So I didn't know that I needed an electrician to come to be able to plug the thing in the wall, that it needs a stand to be on top of, because it didn't even come with the plug to plug in the wall. It came with 3 prongs, and I was like, "What do you do with that?" I had no idea. So I had to hire an electrician, and so I bought it like, we were on the phone with the meeting with you when it arrived, and then by, like, that weekend, I found an electrician to come that weekend and install it, the outlet.
Yeah, you need a 240-volt outlet
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
And it has made my life a whole lot easier as far as baking. It's just so much more efficient. I really would have loved the Simply Bread oven, but I'm happy with the decision that I made because it's less than half the price of a Simply Bread oven. It was like $3,000, a little over $3,000 for the oven that I got. Even if I got two, it's still less than a Simply Bread oven for someone who just needs to do something. And that's the type of person that I am. I just need something better than what I have. So let's go.
One thing I've noticed in our meetings is that you do a lot of planning. Like you're really good about writing things down, journaling, planning things out. I'm just wondering what your processes are like for staying organized in your business.
I can't remember everything, and I have to stay organized because I've got so many things going on between having to still work. People sometimes at the gym, they just throw something out at me that they say they want. At that moment, I know it's better for people to just go to my website and just order, but it just feels like a different relationship with the people at the gym. So then I have to write that down. There's no way I can memorize every little thing that needs to be done. So I feel like planning is I'll put it in my phone and I'll also put it in a calendar, like a handwritten calendar and like those orders that I get or any order that comes in, whether it's Etsy, online from my website, or people told me they want something or Instagram, I write it down and I on a handwritten order form and I'll put it on the refrigerator. Like this is due on that and I'll put for whoever wants whichever one I'm supposed to do first to stay organized cuz I mean, if you're not organized, then I don't know how people function without knowing what they're doing.
Do you set goals or like you like a big planner and like setting daily or weekly goals?
No, I need to be. Everything just kinda happens so fast that it almost feels like I need to slow down and think about the trajectory that I want to go in because it just seems like everything's happening so fast, and I've got so many things to do that I don't even have time to sit there and think about, okay, by doing like, what is the point of doing a market? Just to sell? That's not what I really want to do. So I probably should just sit down and try to make some goals because I want this to sustain to pay my bills.
So what do you want to do? Like what drives you to keep running this business and keep growing it?
Like I had mentioned earlier, the fact that it feels like it's an assignment, that's what keeps me going. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it. You really don't. You don't feel like, "Ugh, it would just be so much easier to work for someone else." But then when I really think about having to work for someone else for the rest of my life or however long I need to work for, it seems depressing. The fact that I don't wanna fail. I've done so many other things and it hasn't worked out. I'm like, "Something has to give, man. I really why do I want this so bad if it's not meant to work?"
So if say another business opportunity came up that seemed like it was the right thing, do you feel like you would just drop the bakery entirely?
I don't know, like, what, but maybe.
Like you're not like super driven to sell baked goods, right? You really are driven to have a successful business.
Yeah, that and it has to be something that's geared towards, like, health and wellness and things like that, because that's what I really like. I work out all the time, every day, Monday through Friday, I work out. It has to be, like, health related, but the thought of doing something else to start something else from scratch again, it just sounds daunting. I'm like, "I gotta stick with something."
Well, like I said, it is growing and you're definitely on the path. If you could stick with it for another 2 years, maybe even just one, but I think you'll start to see pretty big dividends. And it does take that kind of stick with it attitude to get over the hurdles of business just because so many people quit. So you do have to just stay at the market that, you're stuck in the middle and you don't have the best placement, but maybe you have to stay there for the next, I don't know, 6 months for you to get a better placement in the market or anything like that, right? It's just, you have to deal with all those struggles in order to find the success.
Yeah.
Well, you've been at this for a couple of years, and I know not everything has gone smoothly, which is normal in business. But what would you say to your former self? Like, what would you say to someone who is starting out today?
Keep going. And I've done this without accumulating a whole lot of debt. I use my credit cards just for the point, but I'm paying them off. So I'm doing this, and I think that's why it's a lot slower for me too. I'm not putting anything, the oven, nothing. I'm not putting it on credit, but just keep going.
So, as you look forward, what are your plans? I know you're flying by the seat of your pants sometimes, but where would you like the business to go within the next year?
Well, I would like to work more from home, and I signed up for the corporate orders so that I can hopefully get into that as well. And that would keep me a lot more in my home, still with like a pretty good schedule. So I'm hoping for that.
And your 5-year goals, where would you like to see yourself in 5 years?
I don't even know, honestly, if baking would be the thing, because I like you were saying that I'm a business, I'm more into the business part of it. So I'm wondering, is baking going to be the thing or is it some other business type thing that I'm going to be doing? Because I don't know that I see myself doing baking is hard. It is physically hard. Have you ever laminated dough? It is physical. It is physical work, and I don't see myself, like, working that intensely for a very long time. I don't think that I want to do that. So I don't know if it'll just be something else that I'll be doing. I don't know. I wish I knew.
I could see, like, how you started the business focusing on keto cakes, keto cupcakes, and then you discovered sourdough, and that's been more successful, and that's taken over most of your business. But I could actually see somehow, some way you discovering a product, like a health conscious product. I don't know if it would be a bar or what, but that would be really aligned with you wanting to focus on people that care about health and fitness, but that will also still allow you to be aligned with your food business and grow. Maybe it wouldn't even be a cottage food thing. Maybe this is leading you into something like a drink that you would be able to make the jump into the commercial space or something. I don't know, but I feel like I could see that happening where you're still trying to kind of find that passion for it, but this is leading you towards something that will be successful. I mean, I feel like it already is successful. You haven't mentioned how much you sell at some of these markets. You definitely sell. I think you've sold over $1,000 of products at markets before, right?
That Fit Fest one, I did close to 1,500 at that. That was a 2-day thing, so it was like 750 something in one and then 700 something the next day. I've done a lot of markets where I'm like 800, 600.
Yeah, the point is that you're selling. You're you're successful. You're selling product and people do like your products and come back for them. So maybe you can't see it yet, but that there's something on the horizon that will allow it all to make sense.
Something's gotta give because I know what I have is unique and people want it, they just might not know about it or that informed about it. Because even the protein bars, like, I did the math on the content of protein in each bar that I make, and it's about 18 almost 18 grams of protein for 1 bar, and most protein bars out there, they don't even have, like, 10 or 12 grams of protein. So something's gotta give, and something in me just keeps saying, "Keep going. Just keep going." Like I had mentioned earlier about, like, I listen to other entrepreneurs, not just in the baking industry, just entrepreneurs, like other business people. And they say that like the only people who fail are the ones that quit. And they could have been like, they were almost right there, or they would have succeeded if they just, you heard of like 3 feet from gold? That's how I feel that I am. Like, I'm 3 feet from gold. You have to keep going. Like, if you quit now and you could have just dug 3 more feet, you would have hit gold.
Well, thank you so much, Soraya, for coming on and sharing with us today. Now, if someone would like to learn more about you, where can they find you or how can they reach out?
I'm very active in my social media, Instagram, so I'm at Delicious Healthy Bakes on Instagram.
And then you have the website too, right?
Yeah, it's delicioushealthybakes.com.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us today.
Thank you too.
That wraps up another episode of the Forger podcast. And remember to check out my new Cottage Food Pro membership, where you can get personalized feedback from me and other members like Soraya. To learn more, go to cottagefoodpro.com. For more information about this episode, go to forger.com/podcast/147. And if you feel like you've gotten a lot of value from this podcast, I have a favor to ask you. Could you take a quick moment right now and leave me either a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify? It's truly the best way to support this show and help others like you find this podcast. And finally, if you're thinking about selling your own homemade food, check out my free mini course where I walk you through the steps you need to take to get a cottage food business off the ground. To get the course, go to cottagefoodcourse.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.